and we're going to talk about what we think is the most exciting operation in the city, and that's Public Works. I apologize I wasn't here earlier. Evidently, I needed to defend myself against the chief. So he openly talked about the largest departments in the city as being police and fire and parks. And those are all real cute operations. But I'm here to tell you that I think Public Works Department will trump them on a lot of fronts. I think we have the largest number of employees serving you and the rest of the community. We spend the most money, undoubtedly, from everybody, and we're very proud of what we do to serve the community.
And not only that, we couldn't do our job without the water.
Yeah, they need a little water.
Yeah,
I understand
yeah,
that.
we need a whole lot of that. So thank you.
I guess we won't cut them off completely, but so yeah, we don't have any exciting demonstration. I was going to start out by saying something nice about fire. That hey, you know, the warm and fuzzy feel we get about our city's security and safety is you'll see the firehouses and the fire engines responding and the police and everything else. Unfortunately, we don't have that same kind of exciting demonstration. However, this morning, you all got a demonstration, I presume. So you turned on your faucet and you got water. Probably flushed your toilet, took a shower, and it left your house and you didn't worry about it. And so that's one of the reasons why everybody has a tendency to forget about Public Works is that our goal is to try to stay out of sight, out of mind, and just serve the community. Before we get started, I want to introduce to you some of the folks that lead the various areas of our department, and I think we've got the best Public Works team in the state. I want to introduce you to a number of those here. So Lorelei McVeigh should be presenting here in a few minutes. She's the Deputy Director of Utility Operations, so she's responsible for operating both our water and our wastewater utility. Alex Freitag is our Business Operations, Business Division Manager, and among other things, he's the purse strings of our department, manages a lot of the finances. Next to him is Warren Stewart. Warren is our city engineer, and Warren's team oversees a lot of the responsibilities associated with the infrastructure that's going into the ground, not only what the city puts into the ground, but what developers and builders and everybody else is putting in the ground. Susie Deerdorf in the back is our supervisor over administrative services, which is an important function in our department, including our administrative staff, our public outreach, communication, those kinds of things, of which I want to introduce Shandy Lamb. Shandy is 2 days into her job as our communication and public outreach specialist, and so we didn't want to quite put her on the spot to come up here and do this, but eventually she's going to get that opportunity to represent us out in the community through a lot of outreach and education. And then I want to introduce Daniel Berthy. He is also just started Monday. He's one of our new Staff 2 engineers, and he works on the wastewater side of our business. So with those introductions, I'm going to start off by hopefully walking you through what we have for you here this morning. So give you a Public Works overview. We're going to talk about the services provided. Yes, ma'am.
Well, you didn't tell us who you are.
Oh. I know, that's because I don't want the email. No, I apologize. Dale Bolthouse, and I'm the Public Works Director. So, he's normally on the slide, and I had Susie take it off, so then I forgot about it. So, we're going to walk through the services that we provide as a Public Works organization. We're going to talk about the utilities that we manage on your behalf. And then we've invited Rochelle Klein. Rochelle is representing Republic Services. And although we as a city don't offer that as a service, Republic is a franchisee that we contract with, and she's going to talk about the trash recycling and those kinds of services. So she'll end our morning here. So this is our Public Works mission statement, and it really holds true to I think what we strive to be, and that is, you know, an exemplary public service agent on your behalf, serving the community, obviously customer focused, efficient, and financially responsible. So even though we do spend a lot of money, our business is an expensive one. We try to take that very, very seriously. Public works departments throughout the country can have a variety of scopes depending upon their responsibilities. And so the city of Meridian, we're a little bit more focused on water and wastewater utilities. And so you can see this is a list of the services. So operations, maintenance, we do manage our street lights throughout the city, wastewater, private construction and the inspection of those efforts, business operations, but we have a number of services that we don't do. So in Ada County, we have a highway district. So Ada County Highway District manages the roads. The Idaho Department of Transportation owns the highways and the freeways, so we do not do that. We do not have an irrigation system. The irrigation is traditionally provided by the irrigation agencies like Nampa Meridian Irrigation District, maybe Settlers or Pioneer. As examples, ACHD and ITD are responsible for stormwater in our community, so we don't have that. And as we mentioned, the garbage collection. We also obviously don't have an airport, but there's a lot of cities that do. And these are traditional public works responsibilities throughout the country. Although we don't do those, we do a lot of coordination with the other agencies. In fact, we get a lot of calls, and we want to assist citizens in getting them directed to the right agencies. So, as I mentioned, here's the highways, the irrigation, public transportation, hazardous waste, school, animal control. We will happily direct you to those other services if we get those calls. Because particularly we're seeing as new members join our community from other areas, we may not offer the services that they're traditionally used to. So a little bit about our department. So here is a functional view of Public Works organization. So a lot of policy management, performance management in the administration areas, our business operations team, which includes our environmental programs, all of the financial management, the asset management, asset tracking, and Alex will be able to share more of that with you. And then we have the responsibility of managing the facilities. So the one you're sitting in here, any kind of needs from a maintenance and repair and upgrade standpoint, that responsibility falls within Public Works as well. In engineering, we have a wonderful staff of engineers that are out designing and building and managing a number of infrastructure improvements both in our water and our wastewater side of our utilities, coordinating with transportation through ACHD and ITD, master planning, so looking out 10, 20, 30 years, how is our city growing, how are we going to make sure we have those services available, all part of the engineering group. And then obviously our utility operations, which is managing all of the day-to-day operations associated with delivering water to our city and sewer or wastewater back to the sewer facility. So we have some unique demands on our time and expectations by the community. Certainly we are full-time. We do not stop 24/7. We need water delivered and we need sewer coming back. So as such, we have to staff and manage accordingly. We have very expensive assets, probably now in the order of $400,000 to $500,000 or $500 million worth of assets that are throughout the city, serving you as wells and wastewater treatment plants, but also the tremendous amount of infrastructure in distribution of those services. So, very complex system, highly regulated, as it should be. So, EPA, DEQ, kind of defining those requirements and ensuring that we are delivering safe products through our water and safe handling of wastewater. So very highly regulated. Our budget, about half of what the city receives comes to the Public Works Department. We'll talk a little bit more about that. As I mentioned, we have 107 FTEs. That puts us as the largest department in the city. And a very diverse and complex discipline. So we have everything from engineers to scientists to administration to chemists to structural folks. I mean, it just pretty much covers the gambit in terms of the folks and their professional disciplines, education, and training required to support operations like we have. Our source of funding comes from the enterprise fund, and that is in contrast to the general fund. So most of the other things that you hear about within the city, fire, police, parks, all of that, those are all general fund kinds of funded items. We live from the enterprise fund. And I just wanted to throw this slide up quickly to share with you a little bit about the differences. So the general fund is a tax, and that's based on valuation of assets that you as a homeowner or as a business owner may have and may pay. The enterprise, on the other hand, we rely on the rates and the fees that we collect. So your monthly water bill, your monthly sewer bill, those kinds of things is what we rely on as our source of fund, and it goes directly towards the daily operation of our utilities, as well as investing in the needed infrastructure, replacements, and the items to help support our growth. So we are the enterprise fund as opposed to the general fund. So just as an order of magnitude, our FY18 budget this year is approaching $38.5 million is what our budget was. And you can see how we get that money. So sales revenue is the water and sewer bills that you pay every month, and all the customers throughout the city. We're approaching 35,000 connected customers to our system. So that generates the majority of our sales revenue. The other one that's a pretty big piece up there is assessment revenue. And that is new customers who are connecting to our system. We charge them a connection fee, and that helps them offset the impact that they have on our system. So, and with the significant amount of growth we have, it is becoming a big piece of our revenue stream, and that money turns right around and goes back into those to that infrastructure investment so that we can satisfy them as a new customer and continue to build out in front of us for future growth needs. The other piece there is kind of miscellaneous income sources, but one of them, a piece of that is the EPA assessment fee. So back in 2014, we instituted a small incremental fee on our utility bills to help offset the costs that were impending with a new permit and the new requirements for us to operate our waste treatment plant. Lorelei will share a little bit more about that with you in a minute, but that makes up the bulk of that. So about $38.5 million of expenses in our 18 budget. Just to give you a little bit more detail, you're paying water bills and sewer bills, so you're probably familiar with this, but on the water side, we have a pretty mild base fee that goes into kind of fixed costs of operation, but the majority of your bill is that usage fee. So we charge $1 $1.90 per 1,000 gallons. And if you figured that out, it's even cheaper than bottled water at Walmart by quite a bit. The average water bill, excuse me, for our average customer is about $20 a month. And one thing that we are hearing, obviously, as people move into our area, is that's one heck of a good deal. And if you conserve your resources, you can actually drive your water bill down quite significantly. Sewer, on the other hand, we meter water, and so we can read your meter and we can bill you based off that. On sewer, on the other hand, we really can't measure how much is coming down the sewer from individual households. So it's a little bit more of a blended average, but there is a base fee and a usage fee. We try to calculate that usage fee basically off the water that you're using. So we make an assumption that some, most, if not all of the water that you're consuming is ending up back down in the drain and coming towards waste treatment. So that's how we figure it out. So together, about $50, $55 for the two utilities on an average monthly bill. The connection fees, as I mentioned, we are assessing that constantly, and the goal of our assessment fee is to have new customers coming on the system help pay for some of the burden that we have today, but also look down the road and have them help pay for the investments that are going to be required to keep our system ahead of that growth. And for an average residential customer who's connecting to our system, this is what they would pay during their permitting process to connect to the city water and sewer system.
Can I ask a quick question about the connection fee?
Yes.
If my HOA wanted to put in a drinking fountain in one of our parks and we could connect up to your system, we're going to have to pay that kind of fee?
I'll defer that one to Alex. I don't think that would be a...
I don't think so. You would certainly create an account and it would be charged if it was connected to the city water system, but I don't believe they would assess that exactly the same way as they do with single family residents. But it's a great question, and we'll validate that and find out for sure. So our department partners with community development, and they actually process all of the fee structures and things down there as part of your permits. So at the same time you're getting all the rest of your permits, that's where it comes. But I'd be happy to get you a more conclusive answer, but I would sure think that would not be the case for a drinking fountain. So, one of the biggest things that are influencing our department and has now for a number of years is growth. And this is still one of these numbers that we can continue to struggle to get our arms around, and we keep thinking that, wow, this thing's going to slow down and eventually it's going to taper off. But growth in our community is a huge item, and one of the things that we have to do is stay ahead of that growth with our water and wastewater systems so that we can handle it. And these are just some of the actual numbers through 2018. So you're probably aware that the betting public says that we're now over 100,000 people in our community, and the projected numbers, even on some conservative growths, put us out there, 160,000 plus when we get out, another 20 years or so ahead of us. So this is the time horizon that we have to be planning, because it takes a long time for us to get these things in place so we're ready for that growth as it comes. And a couple of the premises that we operate on in Public Works is that growth pays for growth. So that's that assessment fee piece we're talking about. Our council is very strongly supportive of saying, hey, when growth comes in, as people join our community, they're going to pay their share. It's not all going to be on the backs of existing citizens. So growth, paying for growth is key. A second item is that the pay-as-you-go or save then spend is another fundamental that our city has prescribed to, and it's served us well to this point. So as you're aware, you don't have bond measures to afford the utilities that we provide for you. We project our needs and we modify our rate structure and assessment fees so that we can collect that in advance and it's ready for us when we make that investment. And that strategy is unique to Meridian, and I think it has served us well. If you're not familiar with what's going on around you, the city of Nampa has significant investment requirements, and they're taking a $165 million bond to their public here in May to try to secure money to help make these investments that they need. And we've been fortunate that we've been able to avoid that at this point. So anyway, some of the fundamentals that we operate our utilities on come from the guidance of the mayor and the council. So with that, I'm going to stop and I'm going to turn it over to Alex. And we're going to kind of walk through these basic divisions within our department and allow them to share the importance that they contribute to the community. Thank you, Dale.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Freitag. I am the manager of the business division in Public Works, and this is that team right there that I have the privilege of working with. They're excellent in everything they do. As Dale mentioned, the business division is really there to try and support our utilities, our engineering functions that we do. We run very much like a private sector business. The Public Works Department has its own revenue source. We provide a commodity to our customers. The ratepayers are our customers, and so we're able to operate very similar to the way a private sector business operates. And so my division handles a lot of those ancillary duties that are important to that. Dale talked about the financial piece of it. We do handle the budget for our entire department, which is in excess this year of $50 million, and it is roughly about 50% of the overall city budget. The budget process, we shepherd our entire group through that, all of our divisions, as we go through that planning process. Interesting fact, it takes us probably about 6 months to go through that entire process from start to finish. The budgeting process is extensive. We are also the keepers of what we call our comprehensive financial plan. So the entire city has a 10-year financial plan that includes both our operational and our capital expenditures. Us being over 50% of that, that's a big plan that we have to keep up to date and monitored all the time for the city. That data also affects our utility rate and fee modeling and forecasting. So as Dale alluded to, part of what we do is we model what those fees need to look like to make sure that we have the financial resources available to make sure that we can build our infrastructure and maintain our utilities for all of our customers. We also provide some financial analysis and reporting and accountability. We also work very closely with the city's financial department. The city has a finance team, and one of our charges is to make sure that we're constantly coordinating with them and that they understand how and what our needs are. Another aspect of the business division is our business programs group. I kind of think of this as our catch-all team. So every time Dale brings something to me that I'm not quite sure what I should do with, it kind of goes to this group, unfortunately. But they maintain our city strategic plan and how Public Works fits into that. The department also has a tactical plan that we're constantly working against to make sure that we're accomplishing the goals that we want to. We track those for the department and report on them. We also help create the performance measures and report on those performance measures for everything that we do in Public Works. This is our way of being able to determine whether or not we're meeting the levels of service that we've committed to our customers. Another aspect of this group is they provide legislative outreach and coordination for items that might affect the city at county or state level. Our environmental and floodplain programs reside with this group as well. And in fact, before I forget, I should mention, we do have floodplain maps in the back for anybody that might be interested in taking a look at them. That was an outreach effort that we've worked on for the last year. This summer, those floodplains are actually changing a little bit. FEMA's worked on some updates to that. So if there's ever any questions on that, ours is the team to talk to about that. Our environmental program, in fact, just yesterday at council, we handed out a few awards to 3 local businesses for excellent environmental stewardship. Our efforts there are both internal and external. We work with our city departments to make sure that we're working on sustainable initiatives, and then we also have outreach with the public on other environmental programs. There are kits in the back too that I think you're welcome to at the conclusion of this that are water conservation kits. So if you wanted to grab one of those on the way out, you're certainly welcome to do so. And then we also work quite a bit with the workforce development piece. This is sort of our ability to keep our workforce engaged, continuous improvement, making sure that they're good problem solvers, keeping them up to date on the latest techniques and abilities to provide better service without necessarily having to spend more money or ask for more resources. Our goal in Public Works is always to try to exhaust every possible resource we have internally first before we go ask for more. So that's a big part of what the business programs group does. Dale mentioned the asset management team, our GIS team, is also located in the business division. Asset management is just a nice way of saying, are we keeping track of what we have? The city water system and the city sewer system are the 2 largest pieces of infrastructure the city owns, and they're also the most valuable. Most of them you don't see. A lot of it's underground, pipes and valves and whatnot. So our asset management team tracks all of that infrastructure. They know what the value of it is, they know what the age of it is, they generate all of the workflow that our teams use to go out and maintenance that stuff. When a repair needs to be made, they're the keepers of the databases that create the work orders for our work folks to go out and fix those things. To give you an idea, I mean, there's some stats there on the right-hand side. That team has an immense amount of work that they're managing. Just to give you an idea, over 27,000 work orders generally a year generated in that group, so it's a huge amount. Our inventory team is also in there. We maintain a fairly robust inventory supply of parts that have to be replaced on a regular basis, both at the wastewater and the water departments. And so they're active with all of those things. I'll mention GIS. GIS is our geographical information systems. So I think of these guys as the map keepers, right? These are, if asset management is knowing what we have, GIS is knowing where it's located. And that's pretty critical when you've got a lot of your infrastructure that's buried under the ground, right? So between those 2 groups, we know what we have, we know what it's worth, we know where it's at. So that's really what that team does.
What's the oldest any parts of the water or wastewater systems?
It's a good question. Lorelei?
Well, so we've proactively tried to start replacing some of the oldest pipes in the system, but most of that would exist in the downtown corridor from the early 1910, 1920s.
I was going to say, it's probably over 100 years at this point, in some cases, so.
I spent quite a bit of time in a very old city in the state of Washington.
Sure.
That part of our main water lines were wood.
We just uncovered some wood water line not that long ago, believe it or not. So yes, even Meridian has some of that. I imagine some of it's still on the ground. The interesting thing about asset management, we really have only had a robust asset management plan in place for about 10 years. And as you can imagine, we've been putting infrastructure in the city for well over 100 years. So part of what they do is going back, capturing a lot of that stuff that was never categorized in the early days and keeping up, of course, with the growth we have now. But yeah, we have some very old pipe in the ground. There's no question about that. And the final group I'll talk about for Business Division is our capital projects and facilities team. So in addition to all the work the Public Works group does with the utilities and the engineering piece, we are also responsible for the city facilities. Right now, there's a team of 3 people that manage all 12 of those buildings at over 280,000 square feet. They do all the maintenance, they do all the repairs, they do a great chunk of the improvements when we 3 people that actually handle that. And then there's one additional, that's our capital projects person, that kind of helps us with project management when we build new structures for the city and whatnot. So that's a busy group, I can tell you. They're always doing a lot of stuff. So that's a quick look, very high level look at the business division. And with that, I'll turn it over to Warren Stewart, our city engineer, and he's going to talk a bit about the engineering.
So I'm gonna take, excuse me, I have a cold. So if I'm a little froggy, excuse me. But I'm gonna talk real briefly about some of the things that the engineering division as well as the construction and inspection divisions are responsible for, and highlight some of the projects that we're currently doing. So just one of the main things that the engineering division gets heavily involved in, which has been mentioned already, is the long and the short-term planning for the city of Meridian's utility infrastructure. And that's water, sewer, recycled water, as well as to some degree, transportation. We, as many of you may know, don't have direct responsibility for the transportation infrastructure in the city of Meridian. We do have a liaison for the Public Works Department, which advocates with ITD and ACHD to try and get the things that the city would like to see and incorporated into their projects and influence timing and so forth. But we don't have direct responsibility for that. So a lot of this long-term planning, there's about 7 long-term master plans that we try and keep updated. About every 5 years we review those and keep those updated. But a lot of the work is regarding water and wastewater and the various different aspects of that, from our communication systems that allow us to remotely operate a lot of the facilities that we do, to the actual collection systems, distribution systems, wastewater treatment plant, and those kind of things. So the quality of our water and wastewater infrastructure directly impacts the quality of life of our citizens. It also has a significant impact on the public health and safety. That's why it impacts quality of life, as well as our economic growth and development. And this is one of the things that the city has been growing. It's been recognized over several times for being one of the fastest growing cities, not only in the state of Idaho, but also one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. So that's an important aspect of what we do, is try to keep ahead of all that and try to make sure that the quality of your water and systems allows high standard of life for you, as well as giving us the ability to accommodate the growth and development that's occurring. One of the other things that we try and look at on a regular basis is this regulatory compliance and permitting piece. Lorelei is actually responsible for the operational control of the NPDES permits, the EPA permits and so forth that we have for like our wastewater systems. But as the engineering division, we're constantly looking at the new regulatory landscape that's upcoming, as well as the existing regulatory landscape, and trying to anticipate those needs. One of the reasons that we do that is to make sure that when we do invest in new projects, we're not only trying to meet the immediate needs that are required, but that we're looking out there to try and address emerging needs, so that the infrastructure we're putting in the ground and the investments we make don't become prematurely obsolete, that they can serve us for the long term. Again, I apologize. I get short of breath because I have a hard time breathing. One of the other things that we do in the engineering division is to model all the new developments that come in. So anytime a new development comes into the city of Meridian, we're running hydraulic models, which is a computer simulation essentially of the water and wastewater systems that they're proposing to make sure that we have adequate capacity. That also allows us the opportunity to then place conditions of approval on these facilities or these new developments that will ensure that they build the infrastructure that is necessary and make the investments that they need to support themselves. And one of the other things that we look at a lot is that we have a kind of a process that constantly we're looking at ways that we can improve efficiency in our operations, and we're doing that so that we can make sure that all the investments that we make long-term sense financially for the city, that we're doing that in the most cost-efficient method. The other aspect that I help oversee is the construction inspection piece of this. We have a group of inspectors that I oversee that just inspects the utility infrastructure that goes in the ground. We have other inspectors that do like electrical and plumbing and those kind of things that work with the city. But we actually have a group that's dedicated to inspecting the water and wastewater facilities that go in the ground. Not only the ones that the city of Meridian puts in, but also all of the infrastructure that is built by private developers, both on the commercial and residential side, that ultimately comes to the city of Meridian for operation and ownership. The inspectors actually look at every project that goes in the ground. They, however, they're not there all the time. There's so much work going on in the city of Meridian and we have just a few number of inspectors that they have to visit projects throughout the day. So they're not there on a project all the time. But because they visit these projects on a regular basis, it helps to make sure that the city's standards and specifications, as well as the state standards and specifications, are followed. We don't get to see them all the time, but I like to sort of compare this to simply what police officers do. Police officers can't essentially stop all crime. They don't prevent any bad things from happening. But their presence in the community generally makes sure that the laws are followed. And hopefully, if they're not, they're there to catch somebody and to make sure that things are corrected. And that's similar to what our inspection team does for the city of Meridian. They're there, they're around often enough that they generally ensure that the contractors are being honest and that they're putting things in according to the plans and specifications. And if they don't, they're also there to make sure that those things get corrected. One of the other things that we're responsible for, or that these guys help with, is tracking all of the assets. So when these pipelines, valves, various different facilities get put in the ground, they actually are out there with the GPS systems recording the location and the details associated with each one of those things, which then goes back to what Alex was talking about. Our asset management group takes that information, they catalog those assets. Our GIS group maps those things so that we have accurate historical information regarding where those assets are located and what they are. That's also a part of this team, the work that this team does. They also help our staff, the engineering staff, process pay applications that come in for the contracts that we are directly responsible for. And we have a 2-year warranty program in the city of Meridian. So any new infrastructure that goes in the ground is required to have a 2-year warranty. And they also are responsible for the 18-month inspection that is required on that 2-year warranty. Make sure that inspection gets done, and if there are needed corrections, that they work with the contractor to make sure that those corrections are taken care of. And they're directly involved in making sure that the quality of the infrastructure that goes into the ground is top-notch so that it has the longest life cycle possible. I'll take just a few moments now and talk a little bit about some of the projects that we have going on. And kind of give you the scale. So the WRF capacity, that stands for Wastewater Resource Recovery Facility. That capacity expansion project is the largest project that the city has ever done. We're essentially taking our existing treatment plant, which is rated at about 10 million gallons a day of capacity, and we're building onto that plant to raise that capacity just up over 15 million gallons a day. So that we can accommodate the growth that's happening. But not only is it accommodating the growth, it's also going to help us to meet the new regulatory compliance issues and concerns that are coming to us in our new permits. The next project here is the Headworks reconstruction project. The Headworks is essentially the first piece of infrastructure. Facility is the wastewater flows to the plant. It's the first piece of infrastructure at the plant that it runs into. It has screens that screen out some of the most coarse things in the waste stream. It also has pumps that then elevate the fluid to the other clarifiers and things that are inside the treatment plant. And we're actually having to rebuild that because it's also in need of not only an upgrade for capacity, but we're also upgrading that in a way that will allow us to actually enclose it and recirculate the air through a filter so that we can reduce the smell in the wastewater treatment plant. Because essentially the headworks is one of the largest contributors to the smell. One of the other major things that I touched on earlier that we're currently in the process of redoing is that we're doing a facilities master plan, which is the master plan for the wastewater treatment plant itself. So that's another thing that's in process. We're looking at the long-term use of the facility and what we need to make sure that we plan for and include in the next 5, 10, and even 20 years. Black Cat Phase 5 sewer extension. So in South Meridian, along the rim in South Meridian, the county has approved over the years, much of this is a long time ago, approved a lot of developments along that rim. And a lot of those developments someday may redevelop, but right now they're not. But they kind of act as a dam or an impediment to growth going further south. And one of the things that we heard a lot is that the desire for the city to get involved in helping to find a way to remove that impediment. So we have embarked, along with some help from the community, in projects that will bring our water and sewer infrastructure through those impediments to allow growth to continue to occur on the south side of some of those chain of developments that already exist in the county. And this Black Cat Sewer Extension Project is one of those. You may have noticed it if you've driven south on Meridian Road. When you get to Amity Road and just go south of there, there's a detour around some excavators and things that are off the side. That's a new sewer line that's being built down Meridian Road and then through the Simplot property, which is where the old chicken coops are, which is now storage, and on down and around, and eventually comes back underneath Meridian Road. That's about 1.5 miles of brand new trunk sewer line, and that's what that project is, if you've been down that road and seen that. Pine Street is a joint project with ACHD. They're actually widening Pine Road. We team up with ACHD as often as we can on these projects because it saves the citizens money. We don't have to pay for road repair because ACHD is already redoing the road. So we replace our infrastructure if it's old and needing replaced. We do it at the same time that ACHD is doing these roadway projects. That's what this is. We're actually replacing water and sewer line in conjunction with the Pine Street project to save the citizens money and to actually repair some of the aging infrastructure there. And then the Public Works project mapping that you see at the bottom, that's just to highlight that Susie just talked to our city council last night about a new tool that we have put out on our website. That's the link to that tool. It's a map that you can go on, it's an interactive map that you can go onto on the city's website and click on that map. It'll show you all the projects that are currently active as well as the future projects. You can click on those and you can get information about what those projects are. And you can even search by neighborhood. And so if you want to go out and see what projects are going on in the city of Meridian, that's a place you can do that. And then finally, I'll talk just a second about some of the water projects. We're currently in the process of reconstructing well 15. One of the challenges that we have here in the city of Meridian, we have a prolific aquifer, but our aquifer has lots of sub-aquifers. So we have a layer of gravels that has a lot of water, and then we'll have a layer of clay, and then we'll have a layer of gravel and a layer of clay. Each one of those little aquifers, surprisingly, or maybe not, has very different water chemistry. And so as we go down from one aquifer to the other, we're trying to find those areas that have the best water chemistry. The upper aquifer has certain challenges. The lower aquifers have different challenges. But we're trying to find that sweet spot. Well 15 was one of the wells that, when it was originally drilled, the regulatory requirements and everything else were such that worked great. But as the years have gone by, the well has been pumped, and the regulations have changed. There's problems with that well, and we decided we're going to re-drill or redo that well. And so we've actually gone in and we reconstructed well 15 and put liners in it as well as sealed off portions of the well so that we can isolate the best water quality in that well. Amity and Linder Victory Water Main Extension is a water main project similar to the Black Cat Sewer Trunk. It's in South Meridian. It's extending water out into that area of South Meridian to allow for development to continue to the south of those county developments. Well 32 is a new well that's out in that same area. And that's going to be the test well as well as the production well have been completed, and it's the pumping facilities, pumps, and the pump house are going to be constructed this summer. Well 22 treatment facility. So this is the well that's at Bear Creek Park. And the lower aquifers, which I talked about in the city of Meridian, often have a fairly high level of dissolved iron and manganese. And that iron and manganese, when it's in solution when it's down in the ground. As it comes to the surface, we have to chlorinate the water per the requirements so that we have a chlorine residual in our distribution system so we can prevent bacteria from growing in the pipelines. When we hit it with chlorine, a lot of that iron and manganese comes out of solution. Just very fine particles. If you live in certain parts of Meridian, you may have noticed this as discolored water. When you open up your tap, it has a little brown hue to it sometimes, especially if we're doing flushing and things like that. Well, we have that in some of our deep wells. And so we embarked a few years ago in putting in new filtration systems that actually remove the iron and manganese out of the water. Well 22 is the latest one that we're doing, and it will actually help in that area around Bear Creek Park. So a water quality improvement that if you live in that area, you'll be excited to hear about. And then the Pine Street water line replacement is just the water line part of the Pine Street project that I've already discussed. And with that, I will turn the time over to Lorelei.
I just got you some water.
Thank you. Oh, okay, thank you.
I know, I'm kind of nervous about touching this.
Sorry.
Well, you guys are sure troopers. I know you've sat through a lot of information, so I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll make this section pretty exciting. I get excited about it. The people that run these two groups that provide the water and sewer are some really, really great people that work really hard day in and day out. Whoops. Okay, so to kick it off, because everybody likes videos, I have some videos that we developed that kind of explain what water and wastewater is. These are really great if you have little kids at home or grandkids and they want to know about the water system. So these are available on our website too. So we'll kick it off with these.
Son, you showered yet?
Come on, sis. Come on, hurry up. Dad wants me to get going.
Hey, do you know where Meridian's water comes from?
Doesn't our water come from rain and snow? Yeah, rain and snow.
Well, kind of. The city of Meridian has a dry climate. We only get about 14 inches of rain a year. However, snow in the nearby mountains melts and flows into our rivers and streams. From there, the water seeps deep into the ground into what's called an aquifer.
What's an aquifer?
An aquifer is a geological formation of permeable rock, gravel, or sand that contains water deep underground and flows like a slow underground river. Fortunately, beneath the city of Meridian, there are several aquifers that supply water for our residents.
What? So there's more than one aquifer? And they're deep in the ground? So how do we get our water out?
By drilling wells. Deciding where to drill and how deep to drill is really important. Different aquifers are at different depths and have different water quality depending on the geological formation they're in. The city's water division conducts well testing to find the best location to drill a well and to test the groundwater quality that comes from each well.
The wells have to pass a test? Not like that, silly. Like this.
When a test well indicates sufficient flow and high water quality, we put in what we call a production well. This well produces drinking water to our homes, schools, and businesses. You know, we're really lucky in Meridian because our aquifer has really good water quality. And as a result, we don't have to treat it as much as we would, say, if we drew our water from local rivers.
So, my friend who lives on the other side of town, she drinks the same water I do?
Not necessarily. There are 20 active wells located all around Meridian. Each well services different zones in our city. Your neighborhood might get its water from a well in one zone, and your friend from a well in another zone.
Hey, my boss complained to me the other day about his water being a little brown last week. What's up with that?
Different aquifers have different levels of naturally occurring minerals, such as iron and manganese. Occasionally, you may notice that your water is slightly discolored in appearance. Meridian's water division adds a small amount of chlorine to disinfect all the drinking water we produce. When the chlorine mixes with water containing these minerals, a chemical reaction causes them to oxidize, become heavier, and settle to the bottom of water lines. During times of high water demand, such as mornings and evenings, this mineral buildup gets picked up and mixed back into the water flow, causing the water to appear brown in color. The water division operates a year-round flushing program to help clear out the buildup of iron and manganese. The city is also pursuing long-term solutions by constructing new water filtration facilities, which will reduce these harmless minerals and help keep our drinking water clear. A portion of the drinking water also goes to storage tanks or reservoirs for future use in emergencies. Since water meters were first installed, the city has collected data about how much water your home uses. But how we collect data has evolved over time. With the help of laptops and wireless technology, we now drive through neighborhoods and get hundreds of meter readings at a time. This is one way the city is improving efficiency and saving money. Decades of collecting water usage data has enabled the city to see trends in consumption over the years. Meridian's water division always encourages citizens to try conserving water whenever possible.
Hey, turn off the water while you're doing that. Oh no!
That was a good example. Let's look at some others.
Thanks for helping me fix the leaky toilets out. Hey, let's use the blue tablets on the other toilets to see if they leak too. Sure was nice of the city to give these to us for free. That keeps us from wasting water and saves us money.
This low-flow faucet will help reduce how much water you use too.
That's right, changing this out was a great suggestion.
When you're out enjoying Meridian's parks, make use of our filling stations with a reusable bottle. There's a lot of ways to conserve water. Here are some suggestions.
You know what, Dad? Let me sweep the driveway off instead of hosing it off with the city water. We don't want all the oily gunk getting into the aquifer.
Good thinking, buddy. It's pretty easy to protect our water quality once we start thinking about it.
Little actions make a big difference. Help us protect and conserve Meridian's water by installing backflow prevention devices, properly disposing of household hazardous waste, and picking up pet waste. Did you know taking shorter showers can save hundreds of gallons of water?
But I think I could take shorter showers once in a while. Here's the timer. Let's see how long you take. Ha! I don't need to take a shower.
Yes, you know.
All right. So those of you turn off that. Just need a laser to go, but take it forward. Okay, perfect. So that was a great video that kind of showed you where we get our water from. But then our next big job is, like Warren talked about, pumping the water up from the aquifer and then distributing it to all houses in Meridian. So we have over 550 miles of water line that we're responsible for. So since that video, this shows you how fast Meridian's growing. It said we have 20 wells. We're actually up to 26 wells now. And 3 of those have those treatment facilities that Warren spoke about that help remove that discoloration. We have 3 reservoirs that store the water. So one of the big jobs that we do is we have to have enough water demand so that when everybody wakes up in the morning, the faucets all turn on at the same pressure. And when everybody gets home from work, the faucets turn on. But also, if there were a fire to happen during that time, we have to make sure we have enough water to also be able to open a hydrant and provide water for that fire. So some of these big reservoirs, the water tower, there's one at Settlers Park, a big above ground tank, those help us store water for those high peak demands. We have almost 16,000 isolation valves. So when you drive down the street, you'll see two things that are ours. You'll see kind of big manholes that are like the size of an extra large pizza. Those are for the sewer system. You'll also see some that are about this big that are for the water system. So next time you drive down the road, just keep an eye out for those. And each time the sewer or water main lines change direction, we have one of those valves for our manholes so that we can have some control over where the water is going. A good example for that, you may have heard us in the news when we accidentally shut down Eagle Road a little bit ago. Sorry. But one of the great things is because of all of those isolation valves, we didn't have a single customer out of water for that whole event because we were able to shut those off, just take care of that problem right there. So a big part of our job is maintaining all of those valves and fire hydrants around the city. Geez, I'm not good at this.
So the fire hydrants are supplied by just regular drinking water?
They are, yeah. Yep, so our biggest goal in the water department is to provide safe, healthy drinking water to the citizens for use, but also for the fire protection, which we talked about. Dale mentioned a little bit, we are very, very highly regulated, so we do testing all the time to ensure that our water meets federal and state requirements. And to do that, we also have, the video talked a little bit about backflow preventers. What that is when your water system is connected to, say, a different type of water, like maybe irrigation, we want to make sure that it absolutely has no way that that irrigation water could get back into the drinking water. So you have to put one of those backflow devices in, which is essentially a one-way thing, so it can only go one way and we're protected from the other sources of water. So our water division, we have 26 employees and they're kind of broken into 4 different sections. These guys are led by our water superintendent, Dennis Heller. We have our water operations section. These guys are really kind of our customer-facing people. They are responsible for me reading the 34,000 water meters every month to ensure that those meters are accurate so that the bills are accurate that we send out. That's a really big deal for us. These guys go out and check about 17,000 different checks per year to make sure that those meters are accurate, reading correctly. If someone has a bill, they think their water meter might not be working right, these are the guys that go out and check those for people. We also get the not fun job when bills don't get paid to go shut off and turn on water. So that's something these guys do. And these meters also, they run on batteries, so they run out of life eventually. So these are on a 15-year replacement cycle. So every year our guys go out and replace about 3,000 old meters with new meters. Our distribution section, they're responsible for all of the main lines out in the street. So these guys are able to repair small breaks. They go out, they check all of those valves, all of those hydrants. It's our goal to touch every single one of those at least once every 5 years to make sure they work, make sure they're functioning, do any repairs on them. And these are the guys that also do the routine flushing that the video talked about. So we're required by the state to flush our water lines twice per year. And these guys do that. So we flush every single line in the city twice per year. If you're interested in getting on our flushing notice list, you can also sign up for that, I believe, on the website as well. So our final water section is responsible for the actual production and treatment. So these guys run those treatment facilities that remove those little scuba diver guys. And so these guys are responsible for all of the testing that's required by DEQ. So we have to send in every test that we do to DEQ so they can check and make sure that the water is safe. These guys also track all of the backflow assemblies. So surprisingly, we have over 10,000 of these backflow assemblies to protect the water system. And so now if we jump over to the other side of water, we have another video that briefly describes the wastewater side.
Sorry, I'll leave medical.
Every month I pay this wastewater bill. I wonder what it actually pays for.
Have you ever thought about how much water your household uses each day? All the water from sinks, fixtures, and appliances leave your house and enter the city's collection system. Did you know that we generate millions of gallons of wastewater a day? So where does it go? Meridian has hundreds of miles of pipeline that move wastewater from your houses and businesses to a central treatment plant. All of the pipes laid end to end would stretch from Meridian to the Pacific Ocean or to Yellowstone National Park. Wastewater enters small pipes as it leaves your house, and the size of the pipe increases as more and more houses are added into the collection system. These pipes move a lot of wastewater. Wastewater flows primarily from your house to the treatment plant with the help of gravity. Every now and then, the lift station pumps the flow up so it can resume flowing by gravity again. There are more than 10 lift stations throughout our collection system. When the wastewater gets to the treatment plant, we use an intricate balance of physical, biological, and chemical processes to treat or clean the wastewater before it goes back into 5 Mile Creek and eventually the Boise River. Let's take a quick tour of the plant. We treat the wastewater in 6 steps. The front door of the treatment plant is called the headworks, where large solids are removed. Unfortunately, we often find things like diapers, wipes, rags, and other type of trash that should never have been flushed down the toilet. A 1/4-inch diameter screen allows natural solids to pass through for separate treatment. The next step is primary treatment, where 2 80-foot diameter clarifiers go to work. Think of these clarifiers as a wide spot in a stream where the flow of the wastewater slows way down, so solids can settle to the bottom of the tank for removal, and floating materials such as oil and grease can be skimmed off the top. The third step starts in the aeration basins, where air is pumped into the wastewater at varying levels in order to grow bacteria which eat the stuff we're actually trying to get rid of. We love these wastewater bugs. These helpful bacteria provide the biological processing for us, removing water pollutants. What's great about the City of Meridian's process is that we remove most of the waste without any chemicals, which is better for our environment. At Meridian's wastewater treatment plant, we have aeration basins which together hold millions of gallons of water. That's a lot of water. Next, the leftovers from the first hungry bacteria enter the aerobic zone, where oxygen is added to the water so that a different kind of bacteria can get to work. In this zone, you can see all the bubbles we're making. Step 4 in this process is the secondary clarifiers. They work like the primary clarifiers, a wide spot in the stream where, again, solids settle out and floating material can be skimmed off the surface. The 5th step is the filtration process, or what we call tertiary treatment. Now we're removing very small pollutants using cloth media filters about 1/10 the diameter of a human hair. Our 6th and final liquid treatment step is critical. One of the most significant threats to human health is waterborne pathogens, so it's critical to disinfect the water before sending it to the river. Water is disinfected using ultraviolet light. The water is sent through UV lamps, kind of like what you see in tanning booths, only way stronger. The UV light inactivates the bacteria that are left in the water before we discharge it. Some of the treated water is recycled and reused in the city. The City of Meridian has the first Class A citywide recycled water permit in the entire state of Idaho. We are permitted to use recycled water for irrigation, fire suppression, toilet flushing, and other commercial uses. Water that isn't recycled is discharged to 5 Mile Creek. Do you remember those solids we removed from the wastewater in the early process at the treatment plant? The solids treatment includes removing moisture from the organic material to reduce the volume of waste. Solids are treated in digesters where it is heated to break down the organic material. Once that is finished, the remaining solids are called biosolids, which are quite dry and can be used as a soil amendment. The gas that is produced in the digester, where the solid treatment happens, is used to heat the digester and provides energy at the plant, saving money on natural gas. Biosolids that are not beneficially reused are trucked to the landfill for disposal. In order to get more value from all the processes at the treatment plant, the City of Meridian continues to conduct pilot programs such as biosolids composting so the product may be put to good use. Basically, the only thing you should ever flush down a toilet is human waste and toilet paper. Here's a list of some things to keep out of the toilet. Instead of flushing these items, use the free, convenient disposal and recycling services in Meridian. Prescription drug take-back is provided by our Meridian Police Department, and Meridian hosts a weekly drop-off event for household hazardous waste, from auto fluids to old televisions. For details on these programs and more, check out the website below.
So that's where my money goes when I pay my wastewater bill.
Oh, I can work it now. All right, so that's another great video that shows you kind of the wastewater process. It's a really fascinating process. So our job on the wastewater side is to take all of that water, so just like the water side had the water to get the water to your house, the collection system takes all of the water from your house. So we have, now it's over 450 miles of pipe and 9 of those lift stations that lift the wastewater back up so it can flow by gravity. Close to 12,000 manholes, those are the big pizza-sized ones, which all come to our main wastewater treatment facility. That's out on 10 Mile Road, if you've ever driven past out there. And like Warren said, our plant is rated to treat 10.2 million gallons per day, and we actually now get up close to almost 8 million gallons that come to that plant every single day. This is a kind of a cool graph that we like to show. So one of the unique things about Meridian is that we're really a bedroom community. So everybody wakes up in the morning, and what this is it shows our flow day over day. So each one of these is one day. So in the night, our flows drop down to almost nothing. And then in the morning, when everybody wakes up to take a shower, we get a huge influx of flow. This is when everybody goes to work, comes back home, and then drops back down at night. So that's a challenge for us to manage because we want to keep this healthy population of those bacteria to treat our wastewater. So some of the things we deal with are those big flow curves. The other thing we do is produce recycled water, which the video talked quite a bit about. So on the wastewater side, our main goal is to protect public health and the environment. So we are also really heavily regulated on the wastewater side as to what we put out into the creek. We have 3 different permits that we operate under on that facility. We have a permit issued by the EPA, we have a permit issued by the state, and we actually have a state-issued air permit as well. So our job is basically making sure we meet all of those requirements. The wastewater division has 39 employees, and we've been out on the site at 10 miles since the late 70s, so that site has been expanded ever since. You can kind of see just like that big growth in Meridian, the plant has done the same thing to keep up with that growth. Our operations and maintenance section, these guys do some incredible work. They also do some work on some really gross things. You'll see one of our mechanics down there on the left. The flushable wipes is a big deal for us. They say flushable, but they end up getting caught in pumps and in our lift stations and at our treatment plant and cause big blockages that we have to go and remove. So we're not a fan of flushable wipes, but our facility has to operate, like Dale said, 24/7 every single day. The flow never ever stops. In fact, I have about 1 hour if the power goes out at my facility before wastewater is overflowing. So we have a lot of redundancy built in to make sure that we never ever shut down.
Do you want to have backup power?
We do, but sometimes the main power and backup power doesn't work. That's a bad day for me. So our other group is the collections group. These guys take care of all the lines out in the city, getting the wastewater to the plant. You may have seen some of our big trucks. We have 2 of them out there. Our goal is to clean every single sewer line in Meridian once every 3 years and TV it once every 5 years. So we actually have a camera that drives through the sewer that looks at the pipes to tell if there's any defects, if there's any roots, any blockages. Some of the interesting things they sometimes find are mice sometimes get into it, but those are exciting.
Alligator.
Yeah, alligators. But one of the big things we do is we look for infiltration. So the groundwater level in Meridian is pretty high. So if we get any crack in our system, groundwater just enters our system, and then that's all that extra flow that's coming to the treatment plant that we don't really need to treat. So a big job that our guys do is they go and find that infiltration and stop it. And to date, they've stopped more than 1 million gallons per day of groundwater coming into our system. So that's a great thing because it saves the capacity for what we actually need it for, which is the population growth and sewer usage. We also have a state-of-the-art laboratory. So these guys are required to test what comes into the plant, what leaves the plant, and a lot of steps in between. And this is how we show our compliance with the state regulators and the EPA. And we also have a pre-treatment group. We have over 2,000 businesses in Meridian, and so we really care about what those businesses are hooking up and dumping into our sewers. So these pre-treatment guys go out and monitor restaurants, dentists, auto shops, anything that has a potential to send us something kind of bad down the sewer. These guys go out and make sure that they understand the best management practices and also look at any new businesses that are coming to Meridian to make sure that they're not hooking something to our system that could cause harm. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Dale, who will talk about a few more ways that you can get involved with public works.
Thank you, Lorelei. So as you can see, we've got a lot of things going on and a lot of professionals serving the community, day in, day out throughout the year. We have some really neat opportunities for you to learn more about Public Works. We are entering our 10th annual Public Works Week this year. It's being held June 4th through the 8th. This is something that's out in front. Our two primary activities that I think would really pique your interest is the Go With The Flow tour. So that's typically in the evening where we give you a chance. We meet at City Hall. We have a bus service, and we take you around to where you can physically see a lot of these facilities, from wells and treatment facilities on the water side to the wastewater plant and one of our state-of-the-art lift stations and things, as well as a lot of other great informational booths and activities that we do there at City Plaza in front of City Hall. And so I really encourage you to take a look at this and join us if you get a chance. It's a wonderful opportunity to learn more. You'll even meet our mascots, so you gotta have a mascot, right? And so they're there and entertaining kids and adults alike. So they join us. There's a number of ways to get a hold of us, and we can always be reached by phone, but you can find us on the city website by going into Public Works. You're welcome to contact us via phone, email. It was mentioned the flushing list, so we're going through flushing right now, but if you're interested, we move around the city in a grid pattern, and if you're interested in where that process is at relative to where you live, we'd love to have you join that website. They mentioned the project portal that's now available, so you can go out and see exactly where water and wastewater utility infrastructure projects are happening in the community. And obviously we have joined the 20th century and do a lot of communication on social media and things. So here's a picture of our staff. This happens to be our maintenance facility out at the 10 Mile Wharf facility, and we do take a break in the summer and have a little barbecue and a picnic, and I'll tell you, this is a great group of people here to serve the community.